Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to prepare your pen blanks for turning. Let's get into the video. So before we get started into preparing the blanks, I just thought I'd tell you that I'm going to split these videos into three. The first one, as I said, is going to be preparing the blanks. The second one will be how to turn a slimline acrylic pen, and the third one will be how to turn a bullet pen or a rifle pen. So without further ado, I will show you how to prepare the blanks. So as you can see, I have quite a lot of pens to make. I have 10 in total, all of them being slimline pens except for the camo on the end, which is going to be 2 bullet pens. And you can actually get 2 bullet pens out of 1 piece of acrylic, so I've actually over ordered there a bit, but oh well, it's good to have spare. So to start with, we need to get cutting these to size. So to do that, I'm going to be using this jig. So I'll take you over to the bandsaw. So the way this jig works is that it runs in the track along in the bandsaw. This slots into it, and then once that's in it, the bandsaw blade will run through here. And when you want to cut your piece, you get your piece of wood or acrylic and it cuts here up against the end, and it just cuts and gives you consistent cuts every single time. So as I said, it runs along this groove in here, so you just slot it in like that and it goes. Bandsaw blade runs through here, have your piece of acrylic, that goes on here, butts up against the stop, and you cut your piece of wood or acrylic. So as you can see, that is cut this piece of acrylic in half, and then this brass tube is just a tad under the length of this. So I'll try and show you as best I can. Yeah, so as you can see, it's just a tad shorter on either side of the brass tube. So now you've seen how to cut your slimline pen, I'm going to get into cutting the rest of them, so I'll see you on the other side. So when doing the bullet pen, I normally just grab the brass tube, which is a bit wider and a bit shorter. I'll lay it on the end, either end, well, like that, just so it's a couple of mil away from the end, and I'll mark a couple of mil away from the other end. It's only got to be rough, and I'll just mark a quick line, and that'll be the line that I'll cut to. Fairly simple. So if you don't have the jig or don't have the materials to make it, that is the other way of doing it. You just mark out every single one and you're good to go. So when you cut all your blanks, you're probably going to be left with a whole bunch of these offcuts, which are bits that come out the middle or whatever. Now I would recommend saving these, because there's been a few occasions where I have messed my pen up. So I've got a whole box of them in here, which I've made over the years, and in here is also, I mean, you can see where one of the pens has come off and the brass tube has come through where it hasn't been stuck properly. And I've also got another one in here where the acrylic has broken on the other side, and then I'm just left with this kind of pen. Now, I've never actually had a go at it, but you can, so like something breaks on the end, then you can attach and glue a piece of this to the other side of your broken pen, and that just adds another feature to it. And I may end up restoring or trying to fix this pen in the future, because it's a bit of a waste otherwise. But yeah, I would recommend saving all of these little tiny pieces. So yes, just a quick tip. So the next step is to drill the holes in the blanks, and for this you're going to need a 7mm bit for the slimline pens and a 3/8 bit for the bullet pens. Now mine says 3/8 on it. I think I was given this drill bit when I went to my wood turning club. However, after looking online, it says it's 9.5mm, so go with that. Or if you order one of these bullet pen kits, give it a test beforehand on a scrap piece of wood and then see how the brass tube fits in, just to be on the safe side, because you don't want to be messing up your acrylic that you've just bought. So after cutting all the blanks to size, you then need to mark out for the centres. So to do this, I just use a ruler and go from corner to corner. And then I grab a bradawl and just make myself a little point there, just so the drill bit has somewhere to locate. The next step is to drill the holes out. So we've got them all marked out here. And the way we're going to do that is to use this jig that I made. So this is really simple. It just consists of 3 pieces of wood and, well, a piece of plywood on the bottom. And they're just screwed on the bottom here. Well, one of them is. And you drill a hole all the way through the 2 blanks. You cut a little V on the bandsaw, or however you want to do it, to accept the block which goes in here. And then you just thread a bolt through and tighten it up with these wing nuts. That's a really simple jig, and it allows you to keep it straight and it keeps your hands away when you're drilling. You could also do this on the lathe, however, as I said before, I'm never too sure if my drill bit on the lathe, my drill chuck on the lathe is that centered, so I normally do it on here, and actually I find it a lot quicker to do it on here as well. So I will show you how to do that. First off, you just have to undo the wing nuts, and then you pop the blank in, and that's it. And you just give it a quick tighten. Make sure it's proper tight really, because you don't want that moving while you're drilling. And you are ready to drill out the center. So I'm going to grab my 3/8 drill bit to do this one, as this is going to be the bullet pen. This is the 3/8 drill bit going in, and just give it a nice tighten down. This would be better if you had a brad point bit, but I don't, and it's been fine for me. There has been some occasions where it has broken out on the other side. I don't know if that's just because it wasn't tight enough, or I'm not too sure. So what I tend to do with the bullet pens is to kind of go near the end of the blank, and then I flip it over and just do that last little bit through the other side. So you want to line the drill bit with the center of the mark you made. First off, hasn't got to be perfect, but you want it as center as it could be. And then just turn it on, hold the jig down, and start pulling down. Now you want to come up as you do this. And then I just flip it over, and I've also made another center on the other side. Just line it up a bit, and then I'll drill from that side as well. And that's it, that's that one drilled out. I'm now going to drill out all of the slimline pens just with a 7mm bit. Done the exact same thing as the other one. I'm going to go all the way through this time. It just does. I've never had any problem with it breaking out before, so I'm just going to go with this one. So I will see you on the other side once I've drilled these all out. And excuse the dog that keeps barking next door, it's annoying. After drilling the holes, it's nearly time to glue the brass tubes in. The only next thing we need to do is to just sand the brass tubes a bit, just to give the glue something to adhere to. If I was going to do this for just a couple of pens, I'd just use a piece of sandpaper. Because I've got quite a lot to do, I'm just going to use the jig that I've got on the lathe, so I will show you that now. This is the little jig I'm going to use to sand the brass tubes. This is just turned as wood on the lathe to fit in my chuck, and this was given to me, this sanding disc, which you just stick a piece of Velcro sandpaper on there, and it goes into the chuck and you can sand whatever you want with it. So when sanding these brass tubes, I literally just put it on about halfway while the lathe's spinning and rotate the brass tube as you go, and then I just do the other end. And that's basically it, and that just gives the glue some surface to adhere to and is a bit more rougher than this smooth brass we've got at the moment. So I'm going to get cracking into that. I'm not too sure if you can see, but this is just roughed up the surface, and as I said, it's allowed the glue to adhere to it, and it's a much quicker way to do it than just getting some sandpaper out and scrubbing it all over it. When inserting the brass tubes into the pen blanks, I normally use this, which is just a little simple wood turn thing. It just slots over here and you just insert the brass tube in like that, and it stops your hand getting messy. And it would be ideal if I had some rubber gloves or something, disposable gloves to use, but I don't, so fingers crossed my hands don't get that messy. I'm going to glue the brass tubes in with araldite. I normally use araldite or like epoxy. For acrylic I just think it's a bit stronger sometimes, and for wood pens I'll use super glue. So yeah, I'll just squeeze this out onto a scrap piece of board and make sure I cover the brass tube thoroughly and insert it, and then I'll leave it overnight and come back to the next day and square off all the ends. So now I'm going to glue them all in. Right, so I've glued all the brass tubes in. I'm going to leave these overnight to really set, and tomorrow I will square off all the ends and show you how to do that. Welcome back everyone, it is the next day. All of the pen blanks have been glued up, and now I'm going to show you how to square the ends off so when you turn you get a nice crisp end. So let's get into this bit. So this is what we're going to be using to square off the ends of the pen blanks. Sorry if you can hear the rain in the background, it's raining quite hard at the moment. But yeah, this squares off the ends of all of the pen blanks. And also there's a little grub screw here which allows you to remove this centre bit. So if you've got a bigger pen, so like the bullet pen, the brass tube is a lot wider, so you can remove this and put a bigger one in. What happens with this is that this slots down into the brass tube, and then this is the cutter bit which will square the end off and make it look nice and crisp when you're turning. So as I said, this just goes in here like this, slots into the brass tube as you go like that, and it will just square off the end. And you don't want to go too far with it. You want to just get down to the brass tube and maybe just a little bit more, because if you go any further then what's going to happen is you're going to make the brass tube too short and the pen will not assemble properly, and when you go to twist it back in, the pen tip isn't actually going to come back enough so you don't actually see it, if that makes sense. And believe me, I know from experience because I've done that quite a lot of times and I never really realised before. So yeah, when you're squaring this off, make sure you only do it a little bit when you get to the brass tube, because yeah, that's basically what's going to happen. So I'll show you how to square it off now. It's really simple, and then we'll go from there. Make sure you've got this tightened up nicely in this jig. So now I'm going to show you how to drill this. So you just turn this on, turn this pillager on, and square it off, and just, as I said, go down just to the brass tube. So I'm going to do that now. So as you can see, this is the result of squaring the end off. I've only gone down just to the brass tube, and you see you get a nice shiny effect as well. So that's kind of when you know not to go any further as well. So yeah, that's all you've got to do, square off the end and all of them, and that's it. And I'll just flip this one around and do the same on the other side. So that's been it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. In the next video, I'll be showing you how to turn a slimline acrylic pen, and I'll go into as much depth as I have in this one. So yes, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.